What was the process in how, this coming all together? And then obviously, what have you added in Chris Tanev?
Well, the process really, this is, we start going, probably goes back to when we have our mid-year meetings with our pro and amateur scouts. You start looking at every team situation where they're at. Every team's doing that in the league. And then you go through the process of calling teams, where they at, and, if you're in the playoffs, what your plans are, if you're out of the playoffs. So you go through that process and it starts to narrow down. Now we're getting a week or 10 days away from trade deadline and things start to tighten up. The league's tightened up, still lots of teams in the playoffs. So you just kind of work through that process, and it came together the last 3-4 days.
And then what do you get in Chris Tanev?
Well, Chris Tanev, I think first of all, high character. He's a warrior. He plays the game the right way, plays hard, good size. You can match him up against other teams' best players. Very good in the penalty killing. Just, high-end character, high-quality player and person.
At times earlier this year, you kind of mentioned you were comfortable with the defensive group you had. At what point did things change to where you wanted to, make this kind of move?
Well, I'm still comfortable with the defense group. I think you look at the standings, we're 3 points out of first overall in the league, so something's going right. But as you approach the playoffs, you cannot have enough bodies. We know that. And so anytime you can add a quality player in person, you're just giving yourself a better opportunity. And that's what we wanted to do. This group has played very well this year. They've battled hard. I mentioned we're one of the top 5 or 10 teams in the league. We got good a chance as anybody. You want to supplement them and reward them for the strong season.
How important was it to get the deal done at this time before any other team can set the market for a price or anything like that for a player like him?
Well, you don't really control that. You go into making discussions. You don't know when things are going to happen, what's going to happen, situations. We got our own personal situations. You got to deal with a cap. You got to deal with injuries, rosters. And the other teams that you're dealing with are going through the same thing. I mentioned the standings in the playoffs, and there's a battle there for those wild card spots. So teams are 2, 3, 4 points out of it, and the next day they wake up and they're 1 point out of it. They change their mindsets might change. So it's fluctuating all the time. We're just fortunate this came together when it did, gave us the opportunity.
How do you draw on?
Is Saturday the timeline for him to make his debut, or what is that process?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be Saturday or not. I think he may join us on the road Monday. It's immigration. He's got to get his U.S. visa and that's a process. Hopeful Saturday, but I'd probably join us on the road. But we'll see how that goes.
How do you draw in a third team? How does that process work? And obviously, you kind of wanted to do that to help with the salary cap hit and everything. But it just seems like going to find that team seems like a little bit of a treasure hunt.
Yeah, it is a treasure hunt. And we talk, like I said, we're talking with teams all the time. And it depends where a team's at. Are they a team that's rebuilding and you want to supplement, get more picks? Are they a team that's... you're only allowed 3 retentions. There's teams out there that maybe already have 2 or 3, so they're off the board. So a lot of different moving parts to that, and some teams, it's an opportunity. You gain a draft pick, you're buying a draft pick. It's a good move by a team, and it was a good move by New Jersey. It's they get a 4th round pick, to take on that salary for the last 6-7 weeks and retained. Like I said, they got a draft pick out of it. And who knows what that draft pick turns into. So it's a process. We talk with general managers all the time. I'm always talking to general managers, and we as we're talking, they might say, hey, if you get in a situation where there's a retention, you need to have a retention, we might have interest. So you just start the process.
And then with the retained money, where are you guys at right now? I mean, can you still make moves as you get to the trade deadline?
Well, there's a lot of moving. That's really... There's about 100 answers to that question. That all changes. Injuries can change that. Roster size can change that. Right now, we're really kind of living day by day with our roster and in the cap, and that can all fluctuate. So, really, no hard answer for that. That changes daily.
What is the immediate impact? I know. I think Logan got sent down. Is he obviously still available? It seems like you only have 12 forwards.
Yeah, we called him back up. We've only got 12 forwards. We're running an emergency right now, and a lot of that's just because of the cap and roster. And, we got injured players. What's the time frame for that? We're still trying, that's a daily thing you're working on all the time.
Jim, I know it's not easy to part with prospects. How difficult was it to give up Grushnikov?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to bring that up at the end. Artem Grushnikov, high-end character kid. And I give Calgary credit. Through the discussions when working on this, he was a guy I didn't really want to move. And they did their homework. They followed us for a long time. And you won't meet a more high-end character, accountable young man than Artem. What he's gone through in his life, where he's going, and I want to compliment Calgary. They've got a great young man, great player, and I was telling somebody the other day when we're talking about doing this trade, Chris Tanev 14 years ago, this may be Artem Grushnikov. That's the type of guy he is. He's high-end character. He battles. He plays the game the right way. Not flashy, but he does the little things that are right. And he's a guy we got to kick off the ice all the time. Great story last night. I got a call. Unfortunately, I couldn't meet him in person. They played last night. We had to pull him out of the lineup. And after the game, he stuck around. And he addressed the whole team and went around, shook everybody's hands, and then he went in and talked to the coaches individual. For a 20-year-old young man to do that, that's pretty special. So he's a great young man, plays the game the right way, and he's going to find a way. He's done that his whole life.
Jim, you mentioned the standings, but defensively you guys have slipped a little bit from where you guys were last year. Do you look at that as more goaltending? Does goaltending play need to pick up, and defenseman group? How does that kind of work together?
They all tie in together. It's how do you play at times? How do you manage the puck at times? Turnovers, might be goaltending, might be defensive play. It all comes together. It's a team. It's a team thing. And we're in that 12th, 13th, 14th. We need to get up, get those goals against down. And and you're not going to go in a year, not going to go from being 12th in goals against up to 5th again. But over this next segment, we need to get that down, because to win in the playoffs, you got to be that way. And it's really a team. It's a team thing. It's right from the top on down. We got to play the right way, and everybody got to do their job.
Look at the market that you guys had. Was Tanev kind of at the very top of your list for you?
Yeah, he was one of the guys at the top of our list. We all know who he is. Like I said, his character speaks for itself. How he plays the game. When you're getting into the playoffs, you need those type of players, warriors and stuff. And that's who he is. He's going to battle through everything. He's going to block shots. It's about the team, and that's how you win. And that's what he's got in his DNA.
When you engage in discussions with teams, do you start from a point of, hey, Logan, Maverick, and Leon are off the table, or is it a blank slate? How do you approach those discussions?
Teams call, and we just start talking, and I need to know where they're at. They need to know where I'm at, and you just slowly go through the process. And there can be things that change in that. Maybe there's another player gets added to something, so now you're going to change. So it's really, you just walk through it, and it gets narrowed down pretty quick. But then you get down to the nitty gritty, and that's when, they were pushing for certain things, and I was trying to hold out. But in the end, you find something that works for both parties.
Jim, what does this move say about the belief that the window is open now for the Stanley Cup run?
Well, I just don't see, we got a good team. We got to go and do it now. But I like I said, I think we as good a chance as anybody. But I've been around a long time. It's hard to win the Stanley Cup, and it's a battle and it's a war. So let's give ourselves the best opportunity. Let's get our roster as good as we can get it, and let's start playing the right way now, and that gives us the best chance. But it's a grind, and that's why we talked about need adding the depth. I talked about. I'm pretty comfortable with our forwards. We talked about Logan Stankoven, Maverick Bork, Oscar Bach, Martin Blummel, during the year, what they're doing down in Texas. So I'm comfortable with our forward group. We've had a lot of injuries down in Austin. Gavin Bayreuther hasn't played one game this year. We're going to finally get him back. Liam Bischel's coming back from Sweden. So we're starting to add some depth, and I thought we needed to add some depth on the back end, and it was important to do that.
Last year, when you won GM of the Year, it was a group effort from your front office and stuff, and then you guys went out, signed Duchesne, and now this. What can you say about your team and how important everyone has kind of been to this process?
Well, that's the most important thing. I got a great staff, and right from start of the year to where we're at now, going into our meetings, looking who's available and stuff. It's the pro scouts, amateur scouts out there. It's identifying prospects that are available, and then we had to work some cap magic here too. It's the hard cap has made it hard. I'm a big believer you need to build your team in June and July and August, and then supplement the way you can, and that's what we did. I thought we did this year, and then we needed to add to supplement something, and that's because of the cap. We had to get. It was tricky, but we found a way to do it, and it worked out well for us.
Jim, you touched on your depth, but is there any updates on Tyler's timeline or Dodanov's timeline?
Tyler's week to week, and then Dadonov's the same way. He's probably longer term. Dadonov's longer term than Sagan is. We'll just have to monitor that and see where it goes. But the Dadonov is longer term, and we'll see where that goes. But Sagi, he's week to week, but doing much better.
Jim, you said no easy path, but does that make it more important for maybe first in the division or first in the conference this year, knowing you can maybe avoid Colorado or Winnipeg in the first round?
I mentioned I've been around a long time, and it really doesn't matter who you play. Like it's easy to sit there now and say, boy, you'd like to have this matchup and do this. Be careful what you wish for. I've lived that many times, and the biggest thing is really how we play. We got to get our game going to the level we need to be at, and do that consistently. And if we do that, we're going to be fine. And but to say, boy, we want to get this, or who we're going to match up with, to win the Stanley Cup, you got to be the best, and that's the challenge.
Jim, I know you've always said you can't ever have enough defensemen, but was there in talks with Calgary and stuff? Was there ever any conversation about having to send out one of the defensemen you already have here?
No. That would have gone against what I'm trying to do. I knew I couldn't. I didn't want to lose anybody else I needed to add. So I didn't want to get into that where I moved something. Now I still got the hole in the dike, and I couldn't have that.
Do you feel pretty good about making this move and still keeping your first round pick?
Yeah, that was probably one of the priorities. It's hard to move first round picks. So we've been doing it. We haven't been moving first round picks, but we've been losing picks, and I don't want this organization to wake up in 5-6 years and we're in that rebuild and that. We're trying to keep this going. We want to be competitive all the time, and I've given up a lot of picks the last 2-3 years. Now our scouts have done a great job, but it's a balancing act, and I just want to make sure that we're still. You want to be the best team you can be, but you got to have a big picture too, and so it was important to keep that first round pick.
I know this is probably a question better for Pete, but where do you kind of see him slotting in? I know Haskin and Harley have kind of formed a good pairing, and how do you kind of see where Tanev can fit into the lineup?
Well, Pete will answer that, but Pete and I have talked too, so I'll kind of give my GM 2 cents worth. I like to coach once in a while too, so it's all good. But we've had talks and that, but lots of options. I think you guys have seen lately. We had when we went through this, we had a bunch of injuries. They paired up Suter and Lindell, and Lindell did a good job playing the right side. I think we got lots of options. We got Heiskanen and Harley can play together, or can you split them up? We're going to find out. First of all, we got to get Chris in here. Let's get him settled in, see where he's at, and usually that chemistry starts to build. But it gives us lots of options. We got guys that can play off sides, which gives us more options. So, like I said, I think it's a good situation.
As you creep closer to the deadline, do you feel like the urgency in the calls has picked up? Knowing it's a week out now, or
it's starting to, yeah. The toughest part has been just how close the league is. There's so many teams still in that, fighting for those wild card spots, and that's really tightened it up. And I've been in that position, that wild card, making the playoffs. That's what we're in this business for. And it's hard to start making calls to pull your team back, and it's tough. So it's. I don't want to say it's slow. We're all talking, but as far as getting things done, yes. Now we're still, 7-8 days out still, so a lot of things can still happen.